the recording of the CPC committee on November 17th, 2021. We have Alice, Sandra, Kayla, Susan, and Dolores, and Danielle in attendance. We're trying to add Mary. I don't see her. I mean, I've promoted her twice and she's not showing. She's not coming on. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, it says there's 7 panelists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see her anywhere. Do you?
Oh no, still only 6. Huh.
And it says 1 attendee.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Mary. Okay, she's showing up again. Promote the panelist. Will be rejoining the webinar as a panelist. I don't know why. Is she
She says I'm here. So.
okay, let's see, can she hear us?
Oh, okay.
Oh, there she goes.
Okay, good.
All right. Mary, can you hear us?
Yep.
Oh,
I'm here.
okay.
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 Sorry. Why
No,
wouldn't go on?
that's okay. We were having trouble joining you, having you join. So, Mary, just to let you know, we're going over the language in the grant agreement. You were on the email, I think, that included the grant agreement that was sent out by David.
Was that recent?
Earlier in the week.
Trying to remember if I saw that or not. I don't think I did.
Well, we can recap quickly.
Yeah,
right?
we can recap quickly. I mean, this will be a copy. So basically, it was reviewed by the Board of Selectmen and a few changes were suggested, and they're very, very minor changes. So you don't have something to follow along with?
No, I don't remember seeing it. I must have missed it.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure you get a second copy and I can, if you want, include the changes, but very simple in regards to one of the agreements is that we had down the work shall be performed in a good and workmanlike manner by contractors who are licensed, and they wanted to add and insured in their respective disciplines. So we didn't have the insured in there, so that only makes sense that they would be licensed and insured. And then another under,
I think they are. I'm pretty sure.
I think they are too. I think that was all over their proposal. And then on a progress report, it says the grantee shall provide the town with progress reports. And in the original draft, it said at 3-month intervals, beginning 60 days from the date of the signing of this agreement. We changed that to 1-month intervals, thinking that the project could be done within 60 days. And we had 1 month from the date of the signing of this agreement, and we removed the 60 days from that. Okay.
I'm sorry, my phone cut out. Why?
Okay.
So I missed that.
Okay.
I
Okay.
missed your
So,
last-
all right. So with the progress report as one of the conditions, it was written that there would be a 3-month intervals for the progress report. We changed that to a 1-month interval, thinking that the project would probably be done within 3 months. So we would want a 1-month interval of the report of how the work is going along, the progress of the project.
Okay, that's no problem.
Okay. And then the other one was that CPA signage. It talked about prior to commencement of construction of the property, the grantee shall prepare and install at its own cost expense, unless provided by the town, a temporary sign placed at the property, which identifies that the project and acknowledges the CPA grant. The sign shall contain certain language saying that this project is funded in part by community preservation funds. But what we were discussing is, as a committee, we already have temporary signs that we put up for other projects when they're being done. So that isn't anything that you would have to do. But what does need to be done, and we're going to put it here, is once your project is done, you do have to put a permanent sign on they usually put it on the building somewhere that says that the project was funded in part by CPA. And CPA actually has a little bit of specific language for that, and has actually like a specific size of sign that they want, and it's not huge. I mean, I literally think it's like 12 by 6 or 12 by 8. It's not big. But the church would have to agree to put a permanent sign on the building somewhere that acknowledges with that the project was done with CPA funds.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
And that's were the only changes that were recommended and that we discussed.
But there were changes recommended also by David Nixon,
Okay.
margin notes. So just a couple of them, and they make sense to me. So I don't know, if nobody else has them, I'll just go.
I
through.
have it, so it's to the right, in the right margin, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So he says, if you go down to conditions C, and that's number 3, conditions C, says grantee agrees that prior to the receipt of any funds, grantee shall grant and deliver to the town a recordable historic preservation restriction on the property on terms acceptable to the town. And his comment was, we recommend that the restrictions be obtained before the release of funds. So before we start paying for your contractor, we should have this preservation worked out, the preservation restriction. And then his other comment is, note that there may be circumstances where a restriction is not required. If required, we recommend that the parties agree on the form of restriction and attach it to this grant agreement. This would be a situation in which a preservation restriction would be required, I would think, because it's a long-term permanent part of the building, right? The new siding. So anyway, we got to get the grant. We should probably put that in. You have to do it anyway. See, it says a grantee shall grant and deliver to the town a recordable historic preservation restriction. All this does is say before funds are released. So I don't know. I would say that's.
Yeah,
I don't have that.
yeah, they haven't done that yet. I haven't.
Yeah, we haven't done the grant restriction. We haven't done the preservation restriction. That's the third critical document here. We've got the grant agreement, and we've a good long way towards the historic, what did they call that document?
Preservation.
The clearance for the state, right? That document that we've been working on with the narrative.
Oh, the project notification form, but that's only if we go through Mass Historic, and it sounds like there's another option if we read the email correctly, which totally confuses me, because everything I've seen says that if you use CPA funds, you have to jump through all these hoops. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong. So,
Well,
but why don't we just, finish
let's
this?
finish
thing?
this. Okay.
Let's finish this first. So Alice, I do not see at all where you're reading any of this. So can you make notes on yours? I mean, is there an exhibit? Like I see there's exhibit A, exhibit B, and exhibit C at the end of the grant agreement, but I didn't have anything that printed out.
These were, I don't know whether you can see what I have, but
Yeah,
you know how you can edit in a margin?
right, and I have that too. It's just the way it printed out for
Yeah.
us, so I don't know.
But it didn't, but I agree with Sandra. When I first looked at it, I didn't see it. So
I don't see it at all.
I have a copy for myself. It showed up on the print.
Yeah,
And share my screen if you want to enable screen sharing.
Well, I can see what she has. I'm just saying, I don't see it. So can she just make these notations on it so we can let David know?
All right, so I think you have to, so the changes would be, before, the grantee shall grant and deliver to the town a recordable historic preservation restriction before funds are released, and a copy of the restriction is attached to this document. So that's what they want you to put it, he suggests, David suggests. And then the other comment he has is on, it's number 7.
I don't understand how that's different than the sentence, than the statement that already says prior to receipt of any funds. Or are those the words he added?
Oh, that's the words he added, I think. Yes, because they're in gray. Is it not in the copy you have?
Yeah, the copy I had that, so I was wondering why we were adding a second statement.
I think he added it though, because there's a
Okay.
line going to it on this. Do you see the margin notes on your copy?
Yeah, I can share my,
There's a little line that goes to that. So I think he
Yeah.
put it in. And then the other one, he didn't insert language, but he did put a note. Which, because it just says there are circumstances where restrictions are not required. But if we are going to require a restriction, we should attach it to the grant agreement, to this agreement. Do you see it? So he added language with one note and he didn't with the other note.
Are you just viewing his, sometimes on a Word doc, you can view the edited portions of it on the side. It doesn't necessarily go into the body.
Right. But you can
Yeah.
insert stuff too, and he did insert.
Right, so he did make the change where he felt he
Okay.
needed to have it. The other one might have just been a note for him.
Maybe he didn't insert it. I can't tell whether he inserted it, but it is his note. But she's right, as it does say prior to receipt of any funds. Is receipt of any funds, his word would be prior to release of any funds. I don't know, 6 1, half dozen of the other, is it not? Is there a difference between receipt of
that's what I'm
funds?
getting at. Yeah, it seemed like the same.
Yeah, well, you could use his release language. You're right, maybe he didn't put that in there. Maybe I highlighted it. I don't know.
So,
I don't think so though, because it came up.
Yeah, mine came up that way.
Okay, all right.
So,
okay, so I'm having a little bit hard time following you, but I'm looking at item 7 in payment, and I did have a question about this, is
Yes.
he's
Payment.
talking about, excuse me? Yeah, payment, number 7, and he talks about the town shall disperse an amount not to exceed 75% of the grant amount to the guarantee for the cost of performing the work, with disbursement shall be apportioned based on the work done. But CPA doesn't pay money till the project's 100% complete, and this makes it sound like we're making installments to this guy.
I wondered about that too. So
You can't pay until it's done.
it looks like this is a boilerplate grant agreement and
Yeah.
just throwing in some of the numbers, but that's not what we want. That's not what we're expecting, right?
Correct. We're expecting not to pay a dime until the project's completed. And that's why the Mary and the church was putting the money up
The
front.
first third.
Because they were putting down the 1/3 that they needed to do. So really.
Number
this-
7 needs to be reworded.
Yeah, it needs to be reworded and just says that no funds will be, dispersed until the project's 100% complete from the town.
Right. Well, that is the grant, because they call it the grant funds, right?
Yeah,
The town shall disperse an amount, shall disperse the grant amount when the project is completed. Is kind of what you want to say. I don't know, any
Yeah.
other stuff needs to be in here.
yeah.
There's something about inspecting the work. For the purpose of inspecting the work. Let's see. No payment shall be made by the. We could say at the end, no payment shall be made, in the middle of this paragraph, it says, No payment shall be made until the town reasonably determines that the work has been done in a workmanlike manner and substantially in compliance with the contract documents and with legal requirements applicable to the work. You could leave that language in. That's about halfway down. And then shall be paid following, what's the rest? The entire cost of performing the work in excess of the grant amount shall be paid by the grantee. That could stay in. This is the last few sentences.
Yep.
The project. And notwithstanding anything else, if the actual cost is less than we pay and we get our money refunded, which you can put, we can leave that in, right? I could cut this and paste it and send a draft that's edited to say what I think we want it to say if you want. It wouldn't take me long.
Okay,
And that was it for David's comment. He also flagged the one that Dan did. We fixed that about the 30 days and 6 months, yeah. We do need to work on the payment. I'll send you a markup, a new paragraph with that in it.
okay. Is everyone,
Everybody, if you like, excuse me.
is everyone comfortable with Alice changing that with the wording to be very similar to this, but that no payments will be made until the project is 100% done? Just so we don't have to come back and meet again unless
Right.
we want to come back and meet again. We were going to present this to the Board of Selectmen on the 29th. So I just think it would be nice if we didn't have to meet again, if everyone agrees with what she's saying and she's just going to, doctor up number 7.
Her suggestion makes perfect sense to me.
It'll have to go run by town council again anyway, right? So.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm looking through my email, but I didn't receive that document that you're talking about.
okay, I will send it to you. Okay. Is there anything else people feel we need to change or reword or?
No, but just on the exhibits, Alice already has Exhibit C, the town meeting vote certified.
Yeah,
Sorry, so that is all set. The proposal, do they want the entire thing then? So we have that from Mary, but scope of work, is that part of the proposal or some other document?
I think that was already presented with the application.
That's what, it's in the application in essence. So we really only have 2 exhibits then, right?
Correct.
So maybe that needs to be notated, or are we sure that scope of work is in there with that language, scope of work? So,
I think.
and
it
you
is-
have hard copy, right, Alice?
I do. Of
Okay,
what? Of this document. I
town
do.
meeting vote,
Oh, the town meeting vote, yes, I have a certificate.
okay,
The clerk
okay.
seal on it.
Mhm.
great.
I don't know whether it's scope of work though. Is that like the, I don't know whether they're referring to like what's written on the application or what's from the contractor.
I think it's from the contractor. Because that's what we presented to them when we met with
Yeah.
them the second time. They wanted more detailed information.
Okay, and so we do have that exists, a good scope of work description from the contractor, material, all the rest of it, okay.
The material and, yeah, and talked about the demolition and the materials and all
Features.
of that. Mhm.
Features they are and are not doing, what's included and what's excluded, all of
Mhm.
that.
So they're all set, exhibits are all set then?
Yeah,
They should be all set with what we've presented to them, and when we meet with them on the 29th, we'll provide those again with this grant agreement and with the historical restrictions that need to be written up as well.
That's a historic, well, that's the pith of this then, isn't it? In that email, it said, what did it say? Council asks whether we want a full-fledged Mass Historic Commission preservation restriction or go with a local historic preservation restriction. It seems that a local preservation restriction would be easier and quicker.
I saw
Well,
that.
sure, but does it do the job that we need it to do is my question, like in perpetuity and things like that. I mean, sure, I'd love the quick fix, but is that adequate? Does anybody know?
I don't know. And yeah, I mean, I'm assuming council knows what they're talking about because they're the ones who suggested it.
Well, that's what I would like to assume, but I don't like to work on assumptions, so.
You think that means you could skip the whole thing we were working on?
Yes. Which we learned a lot, Alice,
So much
but
time into that.
yeah, but on the other hand, the website, the coalition, they have placing preservation restriction on historic resources. They make it clear you don't have to have, you have to have one if you're buying property or have a real interest, but we're not doing that. And then they say the act is not specific as to whether you need it. But then later on, they say Mass Historical Commission must approve a preservation restriction for it to be consistent with Mass General Law, Chapter 184. So what is one to conclude?
Maybe they approve the local restriction.
The which? The
Maybe they-
local?
Yeah, so instead of issuing their own restriction, maybe this, what the town council's talking about, a local preservation restriction,
Which means,
instead of them sifting through all the evidence, they just read the local one and approve it. I don't know, I'm guessing. I didn't know there were options here. It's not something I know
I
about.
didn't either,
But if we can
because
skip the state, let's skip the state, you know, let's take council up on it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe we should, yeah.
is
I
that a
would-
Stewart question, maybe? Would you want to give a call, Sandra, and just see? or-
Susan, if you want to call him, go right ahead and see what he
mean,
says.
We don't want redundancy of an effort here, but either Stewart or David, I mean, it sounds like they're suggesting that's a good option, and I'm curious if it is easier and does our job. Do we have to, I'll call Stewart if that's all right then, and just see what he says.
Go ahead, or just write him an email. My whole thing is I don't like to rustle the waters, so I would follow counsel myself, but that's what I would do.
Why not
Yeah,
talk to David? And I mean, David didn't alert us to this option either, right? So he may
No.
not be aware of it. But if you call David up and said, you know, we're interested in seeing, you know, what this means, right? Can I talk to council? He'll probably let you just talk to town council. You know, you can't.
How
put them-
about, oh, Alice, I hate to say this, but I could do the Stewart one and just see what he says. But would you have time, since you have more experience in that, to talk with David, to talk with council? But
Sure.
I know you've got a lot of planning, you've got planning board stuff on your plate
no,
too.
I
so
can
don't-
talk to David. I don't mind talking to David and just asking for maybe some clarification as to what
Oh, that
council's
would be
talking
great.
about.
Yeah.
So I'll do that.
do
And then
that
I'll,
and see if they have a form and how much, you know.
Mhm.
that would be way too easy. Doesn't that strike you as like, I mean, that's great.
Yes. And what
But
I thought
does it protect us in perpetuity? Because the whole point is to preserve this building even when we're gone, you know,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Does it
I-
run with the land?
yes.
Does it run?
You're not gonna know till you ask, but I would
Yeah.
suspect it does. It's a
Okay,
prob-
well, I'll contact Stuart, you and Sandra, then you're gonna contact David.
Yep.
And Alice is busy rewriting that number, whatever it was.
Number 7.
minute, but that's good. I am busy with planning board stuff, so it'll be helpful. But
You
we
okay
still
with
that's
that?
fine.
We still have to get somebody to write the preservation restriction.
Yeah.
Well, that would be council, right? You know which one is really super? Does everybody still have their Williamsville Chapel one?
Yep.
I like the format of that so much better than the one they recommend from the Cape. They say this is like the gold standard of preservation restrictions, and it just goes on and on. The way the Williamsville Chapel is organized is much more in chunks. So did everybody get the Williamsville Chapel one?
Yeah, Alice sent it out a few months back.
Does that ring a bell, folks, or not? I mean, I know there's been so much stuff going on and paperwork and whatever.
That was probably drafted by KP Law as well, the
Yeah.
same people. So, I think, Sandra, when you talk to David, can you
Mhm.
ask him? Would they also draft the preservation restriction, maybe based on the Williamsville?
Sure.
But if that happens, then we still need to do the, I can never remember this name, project notification form, right? Because we've used CPA, we've used public funds for this. If CPA wasn't involved, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sort of looking at Williamsville Chapel as a model for us.
Mhm.
And they only used $10,000 and they had it recorded at the registry. I looked it over. It is recorded, you know, formally.
Yeah,
And that was only for 10,000. You would think for 100,000. And things like, where do you put in, well, if this ever sells or something happens, how do we get the 100 back?
Okay,
Where I
first of
don't,
all, we don't get the 100 back. We're putting a deed, basically, once they agree to this, there'll be a deed, a restriction on the deed saying the physical appearance of the building must maintain its historic integrity. So whomever buys it, if like the church was to sell it, whoever buys it has to, on their deed, they can't make any alterations to the outside structure of that building.
so
because the
it
town has
just,
bought that, basically.
okay, I think I'm getting what you're saying.
Similar to the church in the center of the town, if they decided to sell that tomorrow, the town couldn't go back to get the roofing money, but whoever bought it couldn't make any changes to the historic aspects of that building.
So it would have to remain that way. Whoever, and then they buy it in full disclosure of that.
Right,
Or
and
so-
they would know that once they went through their deed process, they would know that there's a deed restriction on there.
Right, right.
But just to, I'm just sort of confused here. So the thought is from, and I skimmed over it, I should read it, have read it more carefully. The note from council, they're saying you can use a local historic preservation restriction as opposed to one that comes through the state as the result of the project notification process? The two different processes, is that what we think?
That's what it looks like. And it looks like there's a local one, but
Well, the local
does-
historical commission could, the local historical society could deem that building historic,
could do what?
could deem the
Oh.
building as being historic, which I think they have done. I mean, I haven't actually gone to an historic commission meeting, but I would assume that they've at least.
Oh,
been
they
approached
said,
by that.
they sent a letter recommending it, but they're not prepared, I'm pretty sure, to write the whole thing. That's not their,
No, I think town council would write the deed, the restriction.
But maybe what they're saying is, the local part of it is, instead of the state making the determination that it's a historic building worth protecting, there's a way that the local historic, if you've got an active local historic commission, they can make that designation.
well,
Maybe
that's the key question, isn't it?
Maybe,
then?
maybe that's what the town council's saying, in which case we have an active enough local historic group to do it. I mean, they know it's historic and,
Well, they've already written the letter recommending.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
so let's find out.
okay.
We can go the
Okay.
local route and skip the state, that'd be great.
Well, I'm looking up some of the past CPA projects. Newton's Historical Commission was the one that reviewed and approved their deed restriction. That's not the state one, that's the town of Newton or city, I'm not sure what they are.
Oh,
Is she
great.
fading away or is it just me? I can't hear her very well, but maybe it's me.
If you go on communitypreservation.org and you look up a bit more about it, most of these projects seem to have the restrictions required by the local communities. But not many of them are mentioning the state holding the restriction. or wording the restriction.
Okay, that's good. That's great news.
I mean, some of our work might have to go to the local people or to the lawyer that's gonna write it anyway. But let's hold
Yeah.
off and see if we can do a shortcut. That'd be great.
Well, let me ask this. I don't know if we need a vote, but do people want to go with the local historic preservation if it's the easier, quicker way to go?
Yes.
Well,
I'll make
and I'm
that
actually
vote.
reading, I'm sorry, but reading a little bit further, it actually says the state, the Massachusetts Historical Commission must approve for it to be consistent if the restriction will be held by a charitable corporation or trust. The church, I think, might be considered a charitable corporation.
No, but that's the restriction held by, not the giver of the restriction, but the holder of the restriction, which is the town.
Okay.
I think we should investigate the local option.
Okay,
Oh, for sure, as long as it meets the objectives, which our objectives are that it is in perpetuity protected. That's the whole idea, right?
Right. So
But
you
if
can add
it's,
that. If we're looking at a promotion here, right?
what?
If, it sounded like Sandra was looking for a motion. The motion would be
Oh.
to. Were you? No?
yes, go ahead.
Would be to investigate using the local preservation restriction process as long as it offers the same benefits.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah. So you moved it, right? I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sandra, yes.
Yeah.
Danielle, yes.
Dolores, yes.
Susan, yes.
Alice, yes.
Kayla, yes.
Kayla, did you get that wording? Okay. Yeah, that would be great. Okay.
How
So,
should we report back then, though? Just by email? I mean, we want to be careful. So,
so what we'll do is, after tonight's meeting, I'll talk to David. I'll see what he says about the local historic preservation restriction, the option. And if he says they can do it, then we'll go ahead and we'll have it do it. I'm sure he'll get it back to us, hopefully before the 29th, and we'll be able to present that. I mean, everyone will get a copy. We'll send it to everyone. And if people feel they need to have a meeting, then someone just needs to suggest that, and we can always hold another meeting. It might be that they can't get it done before the meeting on the 29th, and if they can't, they can't. But the Board of Selectmen is suggesting we go this route as well, so I'm sure they'd be on board with it anyways.
Well, if they say, yes, we can draft it, but we need some more information, you can send them a narrative.
Send them what?
Send it the narrative that we've worked up. that
Oh,
has
yes.
Relevant figures in it.
that's not complete, but it's almost, it bounced around too, but
Okay.
it needs, but there's a lot of information in there.
Yes,
Um,
you guys did a
so-
great job. Thank you so much for doing that hard work.
Oh, Alice did the most of it, and you just have a way of putting it concisely and completely. You know, disparate things that all of a sudden come together. So, because the project thing is annoying. I mean, it asks for maps and everything. I mean, but we have most of those pieces if we need them. But it still will take, there's a 30-day turnaround on that. And then once the preservation restriction would get recorded, then it has to go back to MHC for approval again. So
Yeah.
it is a long process.
Yeah.
But at least we have our stuff lined up as much as we could.
No, yeah,
So-
you did a great job. You both did. You worked very hard, and we appreciate that. All right, so Mary, do you have any questions right now?
No, I don't think so.
You've been able
Glad
to
you guys
follow
are
along?
working on that.
Mhm.
We've got, the building engineer coming Friday, so
Yeah, that's great. Because that's gonna be the
That's our
cherry
next
on,
step.
yeah, actually, that's the foundation, not the cherry on the top. Without that, without that, there is
It's the
no
brownie on
sundae,
the-
right? Yeah,
Okay.
the brownie, yeah. Unless anyone has
So
anything
that'll-
else we want to talk about, we can adjourn, but go ahead, Mary, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's it. I just, glad that you guys are working on that end of things. I wasn't sure what you needed me to help with, but hopefully I've given you whatever I can for information.
Yeah, Mary, I just really wanted to invite you so you could hear what's going to be on this restriction and everything, so it's not a surprise to you.
Okay, yeah, no, from what you mentioned tonight, everything is fine.
Good, great. Anyone else have any other thoughts or comments?
Did we want to review or vote on the previous meeting minutes?
Oh, that's right. You sent them right out immediately too. We
Try
can.
to do it while it's fresh. Now it's not fresh.
Yeah, I remember, I did read them. If I recall, they look fantastic. I said she needs to become the secretary because she does a great job.
Hmm.
And you know what my husband said? She does do a great job. You should see the Lions Club notes.
Yeah. I gotta start doing a worse job so I stop being vulnerable.
All right. Did everyone see those minutes or want to review them again now?
Yeah, I can find one I sent him. Yeah, they were sent on October 14th.
Going back a ways here, let's see.
The 14th.
You want from Sanda on the 14th?
I have them. Do
I
you
think
guys?
I replied to that same email. No.
There's a lot of messages on the 14th because that was
Mhm.
the town meeting getting really close to it, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Did everybody find theirs, or does somebody want to just like read it real quick or what? I mean, I'm looking at my phone, so I feel like I'm sort of up to speed, but I don't want anybody to be left out.
No,
Right, we
I've
can
got.
wait
I've
till the
got
next
them.
meeting and do them both if we don't.
Could we do that? And then,
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Does everyone have them? I mean, I have them if we want to send them out.
I'm having trouble finding mine, honestly, but maybe it was,
14th, the 14th?
I have 3 different email accounts, so maybe it was.
Oh,
something
yeah, that's, yeah.
charter.
You know, why do you have yours right there, Kayla? Maybe you can just send them out and we'll just discuss them at our next meeting.
Sure, yep.
Or do you know what? Hold them until the
I'll
next
send
meeting.
both.
Hold them until the next meeting and then send them out right before the meeting, because
Sounds
Good
good.
idea.
we might not meet for another month or so, so,
Okay.
okay, thank you for writing those and reminding us.
Works.
And Danielle, thank you again. You're always a wealth of information. I appreciate all your input. I think we all do. So, anyone else have anything to say? Otherwise, someone can the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
I'll make the motion to adjourn. Susan will second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
all right.
Aye.
Hey, have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.